See you soon. Okay.
הנה הם באים ימים של שקט אחרי הרעש הגדול והנורא אפשר לנוח קצת על המרפסת ולאסוף את שברי הסערה.
הנה הם באים ימים של שקט,
הנה הם באים ימים של שקט כבר שכחתי איך שהם נראים אפשר עכשיו לפתוח את הדלת לשלוח את רוח ציפורים.
הנה הם באים ימים של שקט, נצא לחלון לראות אם קלו כבר המים, אולי כבר יש באופק אדמה. זוגות זוגות נצא זוגות זוגות נביט אל השמיים, נחכה ביחד ליונה. הנה הם באים ימים של שקט אחרי שכבר איבדנו את הכל. תשב איתי עכשיו על המרפסת, תבכה איתי ביחד על אתמול. הנה הם באים ימים של שקט, נצא לחלון לראות אם קלו כבר המים, אולי כבר יש באופק אדמה. זוגות זוגות נצא זוגות זוגות נביט אל השמיים, נחכה ביחד ליונה. שנינו כאן ביחד על ההר, המים כבר ירדו ויש גם גשת, אפשר לקום, סוף העולם עבר. הנה הם באים ימים של שקט, נצא לחלון לראות אם קלו כבר המים, אולי כבר יש באופק אדמה. זוגות זוגות נצא זוגות זוגות נביט אל השמיים, נחכה ביחד ליונה.
הנה הם באים ימים של שקט,
הנה הם באים נצא לחלון לראות, הנה הם באים ימים של שקט.
יחד לב אל לב נפתח ונראה את האור שבשמיים. יחד לב אל לב נפתח בתקווה לאהבה.
איך שהלב נפתח חובק את העולם, ובקריאת עולם נשיר שיר האהבה. אם הוא הכל אפשר, זה לא מאוחר, השחר ועלה, זמן לאהבה. יחד לב אל לב נפתח ונראה את האור שבשמיים. יחד לב אל לב נפתח בתקווה לאהבה, ורק אם נאמין ובלי שום דאווין בדרך העולה, זה שיר האהבה. לה 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 La 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 יחד לב אל לב נפתח ונראה את האור שבשמיים. יחד לב אל לב נפתח בתקווה לאהבה, ורק אם
Hello, everybody. Shalom. Hello to all our friends. Welcome, everybody. Hi. If you want us to be able to see you, like you can see us, please turn on your camera at the bottom. We're an intimate group, so we want to be able to see you. Turn on your camera at the bottom so we can see you. And you can change the name at the top right of your screen to the kid's name so we know who we're talking to. Shalom, hi. Everybody who can see me and can hear me, can you wave hello so I can see that you can see and hear me? אתם יכולים לעשות שלום אם אתם שומעים אותי. שלום שחר, שלום יואב ורון, שלום מיה, שלום מאיה ורומי, שלום רבקה, שלום רוני, הנה את רוני. שלום, שלום לדובי שהוא דניאל. Hi, my friends. Everyone, as we're joining us, turn on your camera at the bottom so we can see you like you can see us. Okay? Hi, shalom, welcome. A lot of you already know me. My name is Ella. I'm in Brooklyn. Hi, and today we have some special guests. And before I introduce them, I want to tell you, today is a special day in Israel, and for us, זה יום מיוחד. It's a day that we call Yom HaZikaron. Zikaron means memory. It means we remember something. And today is a day that we remember a lot of people and a lot of things from the past and from not so long ago. And sometimes we tell stories, and those stories can sometimes be a little sad, and they can be happy, or they can be very hopeful. Stories that maybe start sad but end happy or end better. Okay, and today to talk to us about stories, we have an author, a real author. An author is a person who writes stories. I'm going to introduce her. Shalom. Her name is Iris Argaman. Iris is joining us all the way from Israel. Everybody, let's say shalom, Iris.
Hi, hello to everyone.
Iris, do you want to tell us about a book you wrote and who maybe you'll introduce our guest of honor?
Yes, of course I will. Thank you, Ella. Thank you for introducing me. So, hi to everyone. I'm Iris Argaman. I'm an author from Israel. I write stories for kids in Israel. One of the book I wrote, it's called Adubi Shel Fred, Baron Fred. This is in Hebrew, but I'll speak about it in English, and if maybe I'll read a bit in Hebrew. So today join us a very, very dear person, Fred Lessing. Wait for us, Fred. Here is with us.
Here's Fred. Fred, say hello.
Yes, and Fred is sitting with us, and I wrote this story based on his childhood during the World War II. His childhood and his birth belongs to him. His birth is not with him anymore. He's in Israel, in the Yad Vashem Museum, the Holocaust Museum. Fred Lessing, in his generosity, sent his birth to Jerusalem that everyone will see him shown in the museum. And people from all over the world see the bear and learn about their stories, the story of his childhood during the Holocaust. So it is very, very special story.
Iris?
Yes, please.
Do you think, את חושבת, maybe do some of our friends here have a bear or a bunny or a doll or another kind of stuffed animal that they have? Does anyone have a stuffed animal? Maybe somewhere near them? You can bring it. It's a good someone to hug.
Yes, if you have a stuffed. Wow.
See them.
Here I see Rivka's got a very special stuff. What is that?
Rivka has got, let's see, we have, it's a dog, I think, of some sort, and maybe some other friends brought theirs, and Roni brought, oh, that's a big animal friend.
Whoa.
Really? And Alex brought us something. Wow, and let's see, who else? Maybe some other friends.
Wow, what's that? It's a cat.
Yoav and Ron brought us a puppet, a marionette.
Wow.
And Shachar and Noga brought us something. Oh, is it your feet?
Oh, it's beautiful.
I'll bring mine in a second. In a second, I'll bring one of mine. So wow. So can you believe that this?
Wow.
Wow. A whole story that started with a little stuffed animal, just like yours. I'm gonna stop spoiling it. Iris is gonna tell it.
Okay, so you can hug your bear or your dog during the story of Fred. Oh, Fred's got one. Oh, this is something very special. Fred showed us a bird that children from Israel made it for him, a special from him. After they read the book in Israel and they sent it to me. Yes,
I think the name is Son of Bear.
Oh,
Son of Bear, right.
Yeah. Okay. I think since we all have our stuffed friends.
Yes, I'm not at my home, so don't have mine, but I have lots of, and my most unique is the bear. So this is the children from Israel from school made it for Fred. It's very exciting to see it. You hold it now. Okay. So I'll tell you the story behind this story, Bear and Fred. Why I started to write the story of Fred, I didn't know the person. He's living far, far away from me in another country, overseas. I never met him, I never heard him, and still I wanted to write his story. Why that happened? How can it be? So it all started while I was reading one day an article in a newspaper about a little bear, very, very tiny one, that came in a plane right to Israel, to Yad Vashem Museum. And a woman named Judith Inbar, that she's a curator, she hugged this bear and she said, it's a very, very special bear. It's coming from Fred Lessing that's living in Michigan. He let her show this in an exhibition in the museum. I was so excited when I read this article. I called Judith Inbar and asked her. I told her that it's so touching and I fell in love with that tiny little bird. And she said it belonged to Fred. I said, I have to speak to him. I'm so curious about his story. Can I write him a letter to introduce myself? She said, yes. She gave me his mail and I wrote him a letter. I speak about myself. I introduced myself. I said what I'm doing, how many kids do I have, and so on. And I asked Fred, can you please let me write the story of you and Bear? Please, it's a very, very special story. And do you think he let me write his story? What do you think?
Let's see who thinks that Fred told Iris, yes, of course, write the story. If you think that, if you think Fred said, of course, write the story, raise your hand. I'm curious to see. Some friends think yes. Some friends think no.
Yes, most of you, yes. You think Shachar, he let me write his story? What do you think? He's on mute. Can you, if you want to say something?
Shachar, here we go. Ken Shachar. Oh, Shachar, there you go. We can hear you now.
I think he let you write the story.
He let me write his story?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So at the beginning, Fred told me, no, you can't write my story. I was so disappointed. You know why? I wanted so much to write his story, but he said no, because this is my life. This is the story of my life, my childhood. Only me can write my story. For you, it's only a story, but for me, this is my life. It's not just a story for a book. And another thing, if you take my story and put it in a book, it will be frozen. It will be a start, a beginning, and an end. And that's it. I want my story to be endless, with no time. And I said, yes, it's right. For him, it's his life. For me, it's only a story. But Fred Lessing wrote me a very, very long story. And at the end of the story, he told me, yes, write my story. He changed his mind. It was so surprising. Why do you think he changed his mind at the end of the letter?
Let's see. We'll hear some friends say, and then we'll see what Fred is here to tell us the truth, right?
Yeah.
So I want to hear Romy and Aya. What do you think?
I think he let them because he wanted the story to be told.
To be told, yes.
That's a really great answer. Any other thoughts? I see Geffen wants to tell us. Ken Geffen. Oh, Geffen, you might have to unmute from your computer too. You see a little microphone. Maybe a grown-up can help you because there we go. Yay, go ahead.
I think because she was so disappointed.
Maybe because Iris was so disappointed, Fred decided to let her write the story after all. That's a really interesting idea. And I see a friend, it says Ayelet Wagner, but I don't think your name is Ayelet. No? So you can tell us your name and what do you think? Ariel, what do you think?
I think he let him because then a lot of people will know him because of everyone will know the story of his life.
Oh.
Right. Good. Very interesting. Thank you.
Iris, our friends have such interesting answers.
Yeah, very interesting one. Yes.
And I'm curious, Fred, would you tell us what the real answer was? Why did you say yes?
Well,
Hi.
I'd say no, because I said, I'm really the only one who can tell my story. Nobody else can tell you your story. You have to tell it yourself. But Iris did something that I hadn't counted on. She was going to write this story wasn't going to be about me. It was going to be about Bear. It was going to be his story. And that was so unusual. It made me cry, makes me cry right now, because Bear was a very beloved bear. I loved him so much. And it was very hard for me to think that somebody else would tell my story by telling his story. But the more I thought about it, the more I liked it, because it would be telling Bear's story. And she went on and did that. And it's this beautiful thing, much better than I would have written it, I think. And I could tell that Iris really understood me, and as well as Bear. And we sent some letters back and forth on how were we going to do that. But I realized pretty quickly that I could learn a lot from this lady who was going to tell their story. Never occurred to me. And I've learned a lot about Bear from Iris. And here's a picture of it. I don't know if you've seen. This is, where should I hold it?
Right there. A little lower. Nice. That's the real Bear from the story. Wow. Hi, Bear. Hello. Oh, a lot of friends are saying hi to Bear.
As you can see, he's a bit beat up. Yeah, and that's because he went through the war with me. He was the only toy or friend that I had during those years. And, if you love a bear a lot, then he kind of starts looking, his clothes wear off and he gets dirty. And that's how he got beat up. And then my mother would put some, she would repair, like he has a kind of a corset around his middle, if you can see that. Here. And that was just a piece of the curtain in my mother's living room, and she made a little corset so that the stuffings inside him wouldn't fall out. So that's why he has this unusual outfit. Anyway, that's how it was for me.
Thank you, Fred, for telling us that part of the story. And Bear.
Wow.
So Iris, once you got Fred's permission and you got Bear's permission, what happened? How do you make a real life story, a memory, into a story?
Yes. So when Fred gave me his permission, I started to work, and the first decision was to, as Fred said, to write Bear's story, not Fred's story. I decided not to say, okay, this is Fred's childhood, but I want to write a book about Bear and the friendship with Fred Lessing during the war. So I started to work. First thing, I went to the museum to see the bear, the small, it was so tiny and so old one. I stood in front of him and I said, I'm going to write a story about you. I have a hug from Fred Lessing, but that's what I'm going to do, to write a story about you. And I put the words, I collect words and things and all the episode and the memories from Fred Lessing and from Yad Vashem library. I took all the things and put them together and mixed them all and made a story, a fiction story, not a historical story. I didn't take the precise story of Fred Lessing and put him in his words. I put his thoughts and mind and memories in the mind of Bear. Bear is speaking and is telling us the story. I want to share with you some paragraph from the book here. I put the book here and you can see it. You all can see the book? Yes.
You can see the book. Give us a thumbs up so we can know.
So here is the book, and as I started to write the prologue, as I read about Bear in the newspaper, I saw the story that Yehudit Bar, the curator of Yad Vashem, said as he arrived to Israel, and I put it in the prologue in the present of Israel. But then I passed to past, and I tell the story of Fred Lessing in Holland. You know, Fred Lessing was born in Holland. And I'll read you a few words. Many years ago, in a faraway land called Holland, in a city named Delft, I was Fred Teddy Bear. I never had a name. Fred never gave me one. I lived in his bedroom with other toys. I was a happy bear. Little Fred loved me more than any other toy. He took me everywhere he went. We did everything together. And at night, when he snuggled under the blanket, oops, he jumped me. I would sleep next to him on his pillow and dream alongside his dream. Wait. One winter day, Fred and I took a walk. He held me in his gloved hand, and I pecked out at the streets we always visited, but the streets were almost empty. Very few people were outside, and everyone looked sad. You see, instead of saying that there is a war outside and something very frightening is happening, so I said from the perspective of Bear that people look sad. You know, I'm not saying things directly. I don't want to frighten kids in your age. So instead of saying there's a big war and very frightening one and scary one, I said people look sad. That's enough to understand that something is wrong.
Yeah. Oh.
Suddenly, I heard a fierce barking. A big black dog ran towards us. He almost bit Fred's little hand, but the last minute he sank his teeth into me. I was scared. His teeth were long and sharp, and he wouldn't let me go. The dog whipped me around and shook off his head, and finally dropped me on the sidewalk. Little Fred picked me up, brushed off my fur, and whispered, "My poor bear, don't be sad. I still love you, even if your head wobbles." Okay, so this is the episode with the dog. Fred told me about a big dog, and maybe he wants to tell us the real story from his point of view and not from their perspective. Please, Fred.
Fred, maybe Iris, maybe you'll stop the share so we can see Fred a little bigger.
Yes.
So the kids have an easier time hearing. Fred.
Once more. Oh, the dog. Oh, there's a picture of me. Can they see? Are they looking at these pictures too?
Yes.
Well, let's see. a dog I think it belonged to the people next door. They wanted a chow. Some people call them chow chow, I guess. And I never liked those dogs. They always seemed to me to look kind of angry. And so I think he is the one that bit my bear's head off. For a while, it just hung by a thread, you know, and he would, I would hold him, his body and his head would sort of flop back and forth. And then eventually it fell off, so he didn't have a head at all anymore. And for a while, I had him headless. But you know what? It didn't make much difference to me because I had his whole body, and I don't know. The only trouble was that because he didn't have his head, his stuffing, you know, inside there was some wood shavings. And those began to fall out of his neck. And I was afraid he was going to lose all his stuffing. So I asked my father. My father repaired his neck with a gadget made of metal, 2 pieces of metal and a rubber piece in the middle. And it was for repairing cooking pans, but he used it to close off Bear's neck so his stuffing wouldn't fall out. And I was happy with that. Didn't matter that he didn't have a head until I got sick. And I had a lot of fever and I felt very sick. And my mother came to visit me, and when she was leaving, she brought some food and some, you know, I was in the hospital, and I'm not sure she was in the hospital, but I was in bed sick, and she came up the stairs and spent some time with me, and then she had to leave again because we were in hiding, and she had to go back to her hiding place. And then just before she left, she said, "Is there anything you want?" And I held up my little bear and I said, "I want a new head for my bear." And then I fell asleep. And when I woke up the next day, Bear had a new head that my mother and my father together had sewed on. And that's the head he's now wearing, which doesn't look like any other teddy bear in the whole world.
He's the most special.
That the dog.
Thank you, Fred, for telling us that about Bear's new head.
Wow. So this is very special to see the difference between my story and Fred's story, and maybe I'll show you how I put the words of Fred and the memory of him in my story. There's a big difference from what he tells us right now and what I tell in the story. Okay, so where is it? I can't find it now.
Share it again. So share your screen again so we can see it big.
Okay.
Great.
I can share now.
Yes. And I want to tell the kids while Iris is doing that, if you have questions about what we're hearing for Iris or for Fred, you can write them in the chat. Or if you don't know how to type and there's not someone near you who can help you, you can raise your hand and I'll if there's time, I'll ask you what your question is, okay?
But I can't find it right now. It's not here. I can't share it.
Okay.
Just 1 minute. You can Go on and I'll find it.
I want to give the friends a question to think about while Iris is doing that. Oh, we're finding the right document. There we go.
Yeah, you can see it?
Well, no. So start a new share and let's share just the document. Because we're seeing all the documents now. Very, very interesting. But we don't want to snoop. So friends, I wanna give you a question to think about. Why do you think it's important to remember something like this that happened to a bear or a Fred or somebody else? There are lots of other stories. Maybe you heard your parents tell some stories today or last week. Why do you think it's important? Don't answer yet. Oh, someone wrote an answer. So history won't repeat itself. That's Romy and Aya. That's a very smart answer. So everyone can think about that a little bit. And now Iris is gonna show us another part.
Yes. Here. Before his mother left him, I write, it's like that. My Fred, don't be sad. His mom leaving him in his grandpa's house. And she asked him, my friend, don't be sad. Everything will work out in the end, whispered Mama. Then she asked, is there anything I can do for you before I leave? Yes, Fred, said Fred. I want you to fix Bear's head. It wobbles and I'm afraid it will fall off. Mama cut out a piece of material from the inner pocket of Fred's gray coat and sewed me a new head. Then she connected it to my little body and used a red thread to, I can't see it, it's small for me, wait. And embroidered my eyes, nose, and mouth. I almost looked like a regular teddy bear again. Fred was happy. Okay. After Mama said, Fred and I stood in front of the large mirror. I saw my reflection and it frightened me. My head was grayish brown and my body was brown. I thought I looked strange. Okay. So this is the story from Bert's point of view and not from Fred. And I took the memory of Fred and make it different because I wanted to make it a story for kids. I didn't say that Fred was sick as he told us and moms come to visit him while he was in hospital. I changed the story and put him in a narrative that it will be correct in what I want to tell. Okay? Someone have something to tell about it?
You know, Iris, our friends are asking if we can read the whole story. They're very, very curious. What do you think? Do you think we have time?
Yes, I'd like to. Maybe we'll share the reading. Maybe Fred will like to read a few and maybe some kids will want to. I started it and yes, of course, it will be lovely.
And
here.
I can see it, so I can also read some of the parts.
Okay.
We want to share, and we can make it the full screen so it's a little bigger for us.
Yes, I'll put it.
Where did it go? It's running away from us.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes.
Is that where I should start?
Fred, would you like to help us read the story to the friends?
Sure.
Yes, so I'll put it where the point I stopped. It's here. Time had passed. You see it, Fred?
Maybe it's too small to read off the screen.
Time had passed.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I sat on the window sill. A cold wind was blowing. Brown leaves swirled in the air, and then it started to rain. Fred told me that meant it was autumn. Yeah. It's getting cold.
Mama, Papa.
Mama, Papa, Fred, and his brothers drank tea at the big table in the dining room. I heard sipping and then the clink of teaspoons in their cups. No one spoke. Usually there was a lot of laughter around the table. Papa would play his music for us. My father was a musician, but the
Right.
actions were different. There was a soft knock on the door. I felt that something bad was about to happen. Papa's friend came in and warned us that in a few minutes, people would come and force us to leave our home. Should I go on?
You want to go on, Ella? Maybe.
Yeah, I'll go on, of course. It'll be an honor.
Thank you, Fred.
So
Thank you.
well read. Then I heard a lot of noise, furniture moving, drawers opening, heels tapping, and voices talking. Mama said, "Children, we are leaving home, and I don't know when we will return. Put on your coats. We'll pretend that we're going out for a walk." I was scared that Fred would leave me in the house. I wasn't used to being alone. Fred always kept me close by. The door opened and then slammed shut. Silence. Fred had forgotten me. I want to say to our friends, don't worry, there's a very, very, very happy ending. We see Fred in front of us now, right? It's a little bit, sometimes we tell stories that are a little sad, but it's okay. We can do it together and we can squeeze our stuffies if it's a little too sad for us. Then I heard the door open again. I felt Fred's small hand grab me. He patted me and whispered, "Bear, I won't leave you here all by yourself. You are my best friend." He put me into his knapsack and I let out a sigh of relief. Fred did not forget me. I sat in Fred's knapsack. The knapsack swung back and forth. It was dark inside. I listened to the footsteps as they became louder and faster. After that, I heard knocking. Someone opened their door. I knew that voice. It was one of Papa's friends from the orchestra. From inside the knapsack, I could hear everyone sitting down to eat. And then Mama said, "We must find a hiding place. We can't let them find us." Why did we have to hide? What did we do? I think Bear doesn't know. I wonder if there's maybe a grown-up who would like to help us read a little bit, or a kid who feels good reading. Maybe we're shy. I think we're feeling a little shy about it. Iris, do you want to read a little bit or you want me to keep reading?
I want to hear the kids. Maybe someone, maybe Avishai is sitting with his father. You want to read?
Yeah? You want to
join us?
Guys? We'll give it a try.
Yeah, you can try. You can try. Then
I heard a lot of noise. Furniture moving. Oh wait.
furniture moving.
Hey, all right.
Drawers opening, heels tapping, and voices talking. Mama said, "Children, we are leaving home and I don't know when we will return. Put on your coats. We'll pretend that we are going."
I think we went, you know what? I think we went backwards with our pages.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I think we went backwards. We need to go. That's right. So we'll go.
Sorry. Yeah.
Here we go.
Right.
You're reading beautifully.
When everyone had gone to bed, Fred took me out of the knapsack and held me close. He couldn't fall asleep. He tossed and turned, squashing me a little bit every time he rolled over. A long time passed until finally he hugged me tight and fell asleep.
That was really, really good. Let's see if any other friend wants to join and help us
Thank
read?
you.
I
It's lovely.
see Romy and Aya.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Fred, we're going to Amsterdam, Mama said. Fred threw me up in the air and shouted, "We're going to Grandpa." Then Mama said, "Fred, only you will stay with Grandpa. It's too dangerous for all of us to hide there together." Fred stopped throwing me in the air. I saw how sad he looked. "Don't be sad. It will only be for a short time. Then we'll all be together again," said Mama. Fred and I loved Grandpa. He always played with us, and we had lots of fun together. I also liked walking down the busy streets of Amsterdam. Then I remembered going to a nearby park that had a lake with ducks.
Beautiful.
Yes,
Thank you.
It's lovely.
Anyone else? Geffen wants to read some. Okay, Geffen, ready? Go ahead.
We took the train
No.
north. Mama, Fred, and I. Mama told Fred not to peek,
That's
but
right.
he whispered to me, "Don't worry."
Don't worry. Good
He
job, Geffen. Thank
said-
you. Thanks,
Thank you,
Geffen. Anyone
Geffen.
else? Okay. Ariel wants to. Go ahead, Ariel.
I woke to the sound of a loud horn. We were there. Grandpa opened the door and rushed us inside. After a few minutes, Mama said, "Fred, I have to leave. I have to hide too right now. You have to take care of yourself. Never tell anyone where you are from or who you are. You must keep this secret. I promise I'll be back soon." I didn't understand why different had to keep secret but himself. Why couldn't he tell anyone who he was? Did he do something bad? Fred held me very tightly, clutching me between his hands. A tear rolled down his cheek and damp my friend, Fred, don't be sad. Everyone will work out in the end, whispered Mama. Then he asked, "Is there anything I can do for you before I leave?"
Thank you, Ariel. Thank you. Lovely. Who wants to continue?
Tamal wants to. Bukasha, Tamal. Go ahead.
"Yes," said Fred. "I want to fix Bear's head. It wobbles and I'm afraid it will fall." Mama cut out a piece of material from the inner pocket of Fred's greatcoat and sewed me a new head. Then she connected it to my little body and used a red thread to embroider my eyes, nose, and mouth. I almost looked like a regular teddy bear again. Fred was happy. After Mama left, Fred and I stood in front of the large mirror. I saw a reflection and it frightened me. My head was grayish-brown and my body was brown. I thought I looked strange. Fred put me down in the corner of the room and barely played with me after that. I was sad. Once he forgot me on the windowsill. I looked outside and saw the entire street covered in white.
Lovely. Thank you. Here, you have one more thing here, Ariel. One morning I wake up and I saw Grandpa. You want to continue?
I think you can continue, Iris, for
But
a
I
while.
can't see all the words here because it's sitting here. Wait. Wait, just 1 minute. I have to put it here. That's what, sorry. Here. I'll move it. Just 1 minute. One morning I wake up and saw Grandpa sewing a yellow star on Fred's gray coat. When we went outside to play in the snow, Fred built a snowman with his friends and then put me on the snowman head. Everyone laughed. As the children played, I noticed that almost all of them wore yellow stars, just like Fred. You can see the yellow stars here.
Right.
One day, Mama showed up. She was angry at Grandpa. Why did you sew a yellow star onto his clothes? It's dangerous. It's more dangerous without a star, Grandpa answered. I looked at Grandpa and saw that he was worried. We are leaving Grandpa's house, Mama said, and she ripped the yellow star off Fred's coat. Fred cried. I want to stay here, he insisted. I did not want to leave either. I was afraid that Fred would forget me, but he gathered up his hat and gloves, his notebook and color pencil, and then he stuffed me into the knapsack too. That made me very happy, even though it was crowded inside. It was dark and uncomfortable, but I was scared. I was too scared to notice. Mama said that we are going somewhere else, but she didn't say where. My head was full of thoughts and questions. We walked for a long time. I pressed my ear against the knapsack and tried to listen to what was going on outside. I heard only footsteps. As you can see, most of the book I put the bear inside the bag of Fred. What, someone have an idea why I did it? Why I put bear in the sack, in his bag? I want to put him there while he's moving from place to place, from height to height. I put the bear inside. Do you have an idea why I did it? Why I wrote this way? Why is not walking outside with Fred, holding him in his hand?
Maybe it's a mystery.
It's a mystery. Okay, so I'll answer it. I put Bear inside in the bag while Fred and his mom walking from place to place because I wanted him not to see everything. I wanted to hide him from the war outside. There's something very frightening outside. So I didn't want the bear to see all those things. I prefer to put him inside so he maybe can only hear a bit, but not see anything. It is dark inside. So that's the way I protect Bear from the outside, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe Fred wants to read us a little more. Fred, would you read us some more of the book?
Okay. Suddenly, a door creaked open. Mama said, "Hello, we're a family from the south. Our house flooded after the dam nearby was blown up. My husband is very ill, and I have to look for a new home. Can my son stay here with you until we get settled?" I didn't understand why Mama made up that lie. "Oh, come in," answered the woman. I didn't recognize her voice. Fred pulled me out of the knapsack and sat me down on his lap. We didn't move for a long time. Mama and the woman spoke quietly in the corner of the room. Finally, Mom came over to Fred and said, "My boy, I'm going now."
Okay.
And you're going to stay with the nice lady. I told Mama I didn't want to stay there alone.
I'm sorry, where are we?
You want to
Okay.
continue, Ella?
Yeah, I'll continue for a while. That's okay. It's a real story, right? It's a memory. And sometimes our memories can feel sad or they can make us have a lot of emotions, and that's okay. My Fred, it's hard for me to leave you, but I don't have a choice. I promise you that I will be back. And you are not alone. You have Bear. At that moment, I understood. I had to take care of Fred. Fred and I stood by the window and waved goodbye to Mama until her figure became a small dot and finally disappeared. From then on, Fred never left me. I usually sat in his pants pocket or in the inner pocket of his coat. We never left the house. We hardly even peeked out at the street through the corner of the window. If I knew how to talk, I would have asked Fred to take me outside for a walk. I didn't like being closed up inside the house. One day, a boy came over. He looked close to Fred's age. They built a tower out of blocks and played with little tin soldiers. I heard them laughing. When the boy asked Fred, "Where are you from? Where are your parents? Why are you here all by yourself?" Fred remained silent. I knew that he was keeping the secret. Every night, Fred would whisper to me that he missed Papa, Mama, and his brothers, that it was sad being all alone, that the world was a scary place, and that he was lucky to have me because I was his best friend. Fred whispered these things, and as he spoke, he took my paw and stroked his face with it. Sometimes small hot tears rolled down Fred's cheeks, and I wiped them away. That's a good bear.
Oh.
Let's see if I can read it. The winter passed. The gray clouds floated off to other places, and the trees all turned green. One day I heard shouts of joy. The war is over! The war is over! Fred picked me up off the rug, hugged me, and whispered, "My bear, soon Mama and Papa will come and get us. Don't worry, they didn't forget us." One night the door opened, and into the house stepped Mama and Papa. We were all so happy. Fred laughed and cried and hugged them so tightly. He gathered all his belongings and packed them in his knapsack. This time he held on to me with one hand as we left. We traveled to a small village. There, we joined Fred's brothers. We became a family again.
You can read it? I don't know.
Yeah, yes, I can read it. We took walks for hours and hours in the forest and the fields. Fred picked leaves and flowers, and sometimes we'd climb a tree and sit on a branch way up high. I loved sitting there, listening to the birds sing, watching the sun play with the leaves, and looking out at the horizon. Fred would tell me stories about faraway lands, castles, and knights. He also told me that the world wasn't such a scary place anymore. That is the end of the story. And at the end, there's an epilogue. And an epilogue is like a story at the end of a story.
Yes.
And do you want to read that, Iris?
Yes, I'll read it. Epilogue. When the war ended, we left Holland and moved to America. Fred grew up, he got married, and he had 2 children of his own, but he never abandoned me. One day, a woman called Fred and said, "Hello, Fred. My name is Yehudit. I live in Israel and work at Yad Vashem Museum. I heard about the story of your bear, and it's really touched my heart. Would you agree to lend your bear to our museum in Jerusalem so that children could learn about your story?" Fred answered, "Bear and I never been separated. We have always been together, but I will ask him." Fred held me in both of his hands and said, "Bear, we've been together for as long as I can remember. You are my very best friend. You watch over me in hard times. Are you willing to go?" I agreed.
Wow.
So this is the end of the story, and this is the real story of Fred. Fred let Bear go to Israel after they have a discussion, they speak with each other. But before I let Fred speak about this ending of the story, that there is no end, I'll say something. The story begins at the arrival of the bear to Israel and end at the same time. The, the end in the book and the start is meeting at the same point. So there's a circle that there's no ending for the story because Fred didn't want an end for his story. So I put the 2 points together to make the circle. And now, Fred, can you please tell us the moment that you did call you and ask for Bear? What did you tell her?
What did you tell the lady when she asked you about getting the bear to Jerusalem?
When you did Bar call you, did you agree to let him go?
Hold on a minute, I got lost.
Did you agree to let the bear go? After you asked Bear if he wanted to go, did you agree to let him go?
Yes, well, you know, I didn't want to be separated from him again. And I really didn't think I would want to let him go. And they said, well, it was only for 9 months. It was an exhibit and it would close and it would be very important because it was an exhibit of children's toys and games during the war. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, I will think about it and I will talk to Bear and we'll have a conversation about it and see. And that's what I did. I sat down with Bear and we talked about it. And I asked him, would he be willing to do that? Go to Israel and be part of this exhibit? And he said, yes. He said, yes, because then I would be part of making other people happy beside you, other Jewish people who went through the war years also, and maybe they didn't have a bear or another toy. And so I could do that because the war is over. If it's only for a few months, sure, I'll go out into the world without you and do the same thing with other people.
What a brave bear.
We did.
Yeah.
My friends, it's almost actually time for us to say goodbye, but I want to maybe ask Fred one more question. Fred, how was it for you to hear the kids reading your story?
What did you say?
Say it again, please.
I said, how did it feel for you when the kids were reading the story?
Just now?
Yes.
Yes.
How did it feel? Felt like I was little again. And that's what happens when I think about the war and the things we lived through and about Bear and about my mother and my brothers. Everything and everybody that I loved. And I want to say something to all of you. What I'm calling the war was a terrible, terrible thing. And many people died. And it occurs to me to tell you that we here in America at this moment are also in a war, a terrible war. And many, many people are dying. And everybody else, you probably know about this. School is closed.
Yeah.
The stores are closed. And that's very similar. The only difference is that this time the enemy is not human beings, but
And another difference, maybe, Fred, is that this time we're all together.
Yes.
yes,
Beautiful.
that's true.
Yes.
But
This time,
experiencing, all of us, in our families, in our schools, everything, it's kind of difficult, you know. And okay, there's nobody trying to kill us, but there are a lot of people dying, and it's very terrible. And so maybe you are experiencing these days some of what goes on in the world when there's war. And after a while, it begins to be difficult.
Fred, do you think all of our friends should get themselves a bear, a good friend like you had for when it's difficult?
Everybody have a bear? So
Oh, should everybody have a bear? Well, I can't say what everybody should do. I only know what I would say is if you had a bear or a little blankie or a little doll, anything that you fell in love with and that became your best friend for a while, don't let anybody take that away from you. Don't let your parents throw it in the trash because it got a little. It's a very precious thing.
That's it.
I'll tell you why it's precious. It's precious because it was the first thing in your life that you chose. You decided you wanted this little bear. You decided, you picked it. Maybe your parents put some things with you, but you're the one that picked out that you were going to love. And it's the first decision that you made as an independent person, even though you were little. And that makes it a very important thing to hang on to.
Fred, so, I think that's a great note to, because it's actually time for us to say goodbye. And I'm gonna open all the microphones of all the kids. I know you had some questions. I'm sorry that we didn't get to everything. I wanna hear all the kids maybe say thank you and goodbye to Iris and to Fred. It's so amazing that you came to be with us, both of you. Fred, thank you so much. Iris, thank you so much. Toda.
Thank you, Ella. Thank you, Fred. Thank you. It was lovely to meet you here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Love you.
And this is over. We'll go visit the
Oh,
bear. Bye.
my friend.
Bye.
Thank you.